Hey, it's Rick. I'm back with another video for Paper Rose Studio. Today, I'm going to be showcasing the brand new STAMPtember collab with Simon Says Stamp. It is called Thankful Florals, and it's a great little stamp set that's super cute. And it has the florals, a few extra leaves, and some of the fabulous sentiments you have with sympathy, hello, hugs, smile, thinking of you. So every sentiment you could possibly need. There's thank you, missing you, happy birthday, all kinds of great little sentiments that you can use on your cards. And we're going to make a card together today. I have taken the large floral from the stamp set and stamped that out in some rich cocoa ink. And I'm going to color those with my Olo markers. It's super easy stamp set to color. It's a, let's see what size stamp this is. It is, about 9.5 centimeters long by about 6 centimeters wide. So for inches, it's, about 3 3/4 inches long by 2 1/4 inches wide. So I'm matching some pattern paper. I'm matching pattern paper from the Autumn Florals collection. And I'm coloring the florals to match. So I've started off with this rich cocoa color. For my markers, I'm using OR 4.8 as my darkest color. And I lay that in first. And I blend it out with OR 4.7. And then just for funsies, I threw in OR 7.6 and OR 7.4 to blend everything out for the lightest color. Like I said, it's super easy to color. You want to lay in your shadows first. At least I color light to dark. You can color, or dark to light. You can color light to dark if you wanted to. I always just do it the opposite way. So I'm laying in that OR 4.8 first, and then the 4.7. And then I'll lay in the other two colors as well and blend everything out together. So like I said, this is a STAMPtember collab set for Paper Rose Studio, which means it's only available while supplies last. So if you want this set, you're going to need to grab it now over at Simon Says Stamp. And while you're there, you might as well grab the Autumn Florals paper pack too. And just, make some fun cards using the floral paper. So we're going to go ahead and finish coloring up the first flower. And I'm going to keep going around each petal. Back to the card, that for a second. So especially like the ones that overlap, you want to make sure you get that shadow in there and pull that out. And I'm adding in just a little bit of shadow on the top. This one, for some reason, I just blended it with the two colors. The dark, two darker tones. I don't know why I did that one on that one. I guess because it was further back. So, I don't know why. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and finish up coloring this flower. And then we're going to add in another floral. We're going to color that other floral up in just a second. And as I was saying, this is the STAMPtember collab for Paper Rose Studio and Simon Says Stamp. And I believe, don't quote me on this because I haven't seen it yet on the Simon Says Stamp website. I'm pretty sure if they go like everybody else, there will be a set of matching dies in this. So you could choose the stamp and die bundle or just the stamp set over there today. And while supplies last. So I would definitely take advantage of this, y'all. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and finish coloring up this one flower. And then I'll switch over and color the other one in a different fall color combo. So I'm going to pull that out in the last one. I do want to say that on the little tiny folds of the flower, I just used one color for the most part and just kind of filled that in. You don't have to get all fancy and everything when you're coloring florals. You can pretty much get away with just a few colors and not have to go whole hog on it. You can just color in a little bit. But as I said, I did match pattern paper from the Autumn Florals collection. And I'll show you the paper that I used on that in just a little while. So we're going to switch over now to the next part of that floral. And I'm using Y023, Y022, and Y025 is my darkest. So I'm going to lay in that shadow and I'm going to just pull out that Y025 with the Y023, and then I'll blend all that out together with the Y022. I like to go a few petals at a time start with my shadows. I'll lay those in, and then I'll blend it out with the mid-tone, and then blend that out with the highlight. I will go around the entire flower that way, and it just makes it easier for me to when I color flowers, especially when they're on the little smaller side like these are. I mean, they're a decent size, but they're a little smaller than like big, huge flowers. So it doesn't take a lot to color them. It was pretty quick to color up. I think it only took me to make this card probably 30 minutes total, and that included the coloring process. So that was really quick for a floral card. So as you can see, though, as I'm coloring, I add a couple petals at a time and add those shadows in, and then I'll come back. I forgot to do the center on that flower, so I just colored it in with that Y025 and my Olo markers, which is just a muted golden yellow color. So here, so you can see I'm going back to where I'm using a couple flowers at a time. I'll blend that out with that mid-tone and then blend it out with that highlight color to make it super easy. We've got that two extra petals on that back flower. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then we'll move on to our leaves. And for that, I only use 2 markers for the leaves. I kept it super simple. I tried to keep the colors super simple. I did match it to the pattern paper. So for my leaves, I'm using YG 8.7 and YG 8.5, which is moss and fern. So I started with the darker color, blended out with that light. Here I did flick in from the top down and then flicked in from the bottom. But mainly I will flick that darkest color at the bottom and then flick up, go from there and flick up to the top to make it to blend together. So I'm just going to add my shadows in, and I will blend out with the mid-tone and with the highlight technically, since we're only using 2 markers on this one, on the leaves. So we'll go ahead and do that, and I'll finish off this stem, and then I have the leaf underneath that flower. I did the same way, same colors. Instead of coming from the base, though, I treated it as if I was coloring up on the from the center of the flower, leaf out. So that was where, because technically when you're coloring a leaf, or when leaves in nature, you will see if they're kind of curled in the center, they're going to be a little bit darker. Now, I'm going to fussy cut this out because I don't have the matching dies. So I'll be right back. There is the Autumn Floral pattern paper that I use for my color palette. I use that plaid pattern back there for the color palette. And I'm going to ink blend using some Distress inks on this panel. I'm going to end up cutting this panel down a little bit, but I wasn't sure what size I wanted to be on the focal point of the card. So I came in with the, I think it was old paper, and then I came in right then with Vintage Photo and blended all that together. I'm going to add just a little bit more of that Vintage Photo Distress ink to kind of match my pattern paper a little bit better. And then I put the entire thing into my little stamp positioning tool, and I'm going to stamp these florals, that large floral, onto this panel and have a tone-on-tone effect. I'm going to stamp it a couple times to make sure I get a nice, good impression with it. So I'm going to move this around to kind of give it a little bit of a different look. I'll flip it around, find out what's the best position, put it in there, and then pick it up with a door, and then I can take and stamp that again. So I'm going to take and stamp that down. I'll stamp it a couple times. I think I ended up stamping it 3. Yeah, so, and I'm going to move that up to the top, and then I can stamp my last floral at the bottom, which ends up not being the bottom. You'll see in a minute. So we'll go ahead and stamp that tone-on-tone to have some tone-on-tone stamping back there. And then I'll go ahead, before I replace this, and go ahead and stamp that sentiment. I chose the sentiment Missing You. I laid my floral in there that I had colored and fussy cut out so that I could find the placement for my sentiment. And this is when I realized I'm going to have to kind of modify the design I had in my head so that it would actually fit. So I stamped the Missing You in there, and I just used the pigment ink for that. I'm going to take my pattern paper, and I'm going to take the largest piece, and I've cut this to fit the card front. I'm using the basic white top folding A2 cards from Paper Rose Studio. I'm going to go ahead and add that other piece of pattern paper. It's just the reverse side. I've got this other strip I'm going to add to the inside of my card so that everything ties in together. So I'm going to go ahead and add that, and I will trim off any excess that overhangs, because you want to make sure you don't go up to this, go past that score line. You want to go right up to it. I decided that it needed a little bit more onto my card. So I'm going to come in with a piece of brown cardstock, and I'm just going to layer that cardstock together that I stamped on my card front. I'm going to layer that onto just a piece of smooth brown cardstock. And then I'm going to end up popping that up in the center of my card front. So I'm going to add some foam tape behind. We'll go ahead and trim off all that. I'm going to go ahead and add a few pieces so that it doesn't sag. And I can peel those backings off. And I will add a little bit of liquid glue behind that. And I will pop that onto my card front after I get all that off. I'm going to add my liquid glue. I like to have a little wiggle room when I'm putting this together. So I'm going to go ahead and add that liquid glue. I'll pop this into the center of the card. And I can go ahead and kind of move that into place. Make sure it's nice and even on all four sides. I'm going to take my cut and my fussy cut and colored floral. I'm going to figure out the placement. I thought about doing it on this side, but then I decided I really didn't like it and I wanted it more across the top. So I'm going to add just a little bit of foam tape where it's going to overhang across the top of the card front. And that way I can have everything on the same level and keep it nice and adhere. So I'm going to go ahead and stick another couple pieces of foam tape behind the top of my floral. I'm going to peel those backings off, and I'm going to add liquid glue to not only the foam tape, but the part that's going to overhang the card front as well to keep everything nice and secure. So we'll go ahead and add a little bit of that on there. So I'll take and squeeze that right through there and add that lovely liquid glue on there. I'm going to attach the floral to the top of the card. And then I'm going to come in and give it some white gel pen highlights. And I like to give, I'm going to go through with a dot of the little, I don't know what they're called, the little parts of the flowers that has the inside of that. I'm going to add some little dots to that. And if there's a ruffle on the flower, I'm going to add a highlight to the top of it. Because in nature, that's where you would see most of your highlights at. So we're going to go ahead and add that. I'll add some to the leaves. And then I'm going to add a few finishing touches. I'm going to take some of the crystal clear embellishment mix. And I'm going to add a few of these sprinkled around the card. I'm going to do 3 at the bottom and 3 on the right side. And I'm going to add 1 more right there in between that flower. So we're going to go ahead and pop on our little embellishment mix. I had a little problem picking this one up because it was flipped upside down. But I finally got it picked up. So I'm going to pop that right there. A couple of the smaller ones around the card. And I did try to vary the sizes of those. That's one thing great about the embellishment mix is that it does come in different sizes. There's different sizes in the pack. Here's a look at the card. I hope that you go and pick this up at Simon Says Stamp and enjoy the collab. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys. Stay crafty. And I'll see you in the next video right over there. Bye, guys. Love you.